Testing. Hi, can you hear me? Testing. Just testing my microphone here. Can you hear me? Loud and clear. Hi, Katie. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you guys joining here, even though I didn't send out a message. Hi, William. Thanks for joining. My guess is you both had notifications set. How are you guys doing? Looks like we got folks joining in here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I hope you guys are having a good Saturday, minus all of the, the things that are going on in Southern California. It's been just really shocking news, but hopefully none of you are impacted, or you have, people that that are impacted in Southern California. Hopefully we can just send out prayers. But all in all, hopefully you guys are all having a great weekend. Thank you for joining here. Looks like we have William, Katie, Sasso, William here, fanboy of Mara. Mara will be a Bitcoin bank soon. Yeah, we'll talk a lot about all of those updates, especially with what has happened with the overall Bitcoin sector. We'll cover, just price targets. Any questions that you guys would have, I would appreciate you just putting a Q in the front and just asking those questions, and we can cover all of those details, but would welcome any questions that you have. Overall, I'll be covering just, my updates on price of Bitcoin. We're seeing Bitcoin right now at like 94,000. It's been hovering up and down, but I think, we're in a healthy consolidation state. So I'm not too worried about overall price of Bitcoin. We scale out within the month range. We got that all-time high at 108, and it's nice to see us hovering in that, that mid 90K tier. We saw a head and shoulders take place not too long ago, but just scaling out. Overall, we're still in the positive, trajectory here. But just keeping in mind, when we had price of Bitcoin go up in the last cycle from 17K to 73K all-time high, we haven't really got that type of trajectory yet. All-time high, Bitcoin, 73K to 108K. It hasn't even gone by 1x yet. So I think this year, 2025, we're going to see some big wave movements with the price of Bitcoin. That's what I'm thinking. Just taking a look at the all here. So from 2020, 17K to 73K, down to the bottom. Even though we see this upward trajectory here, it got back up to its prior all-time high, but it's only crept up to the 100K. So it's only gone up by 30% from its prior all-time high. So we haven't really seen that big bullish run yet, which is why I'm thinking that we're going to have that potential breakout into the, the 120K. Yeah, that'd be sick for Mara at least to be a Bitcoin bank soon. I think what we're hearing, especially with Mara, we just heard about, updates about how they're planning on increasing their ATM from 500 million to 800 million. I also just created a Mara video that was released. Take a look at that. It's a deep dive analysis there with price targets. But I think where we are with Mara, the plan is that they're going to probably increase the HODL count. That's my assessment. But take a look at Bitcoin holdings of public miners here. So Mara, we know, is at number 1. They're hovering at around like close to 45K. RIOT is number 2, right? So it'll be interesting to see, how the big players here in this market are going to ramp up their Bitcoin HODL. I think any type of run up with Bitcoin, we're going to see a lot more companies get into that, that global game theory, ramping up the HODL. We saw when Bitcoin ran up to 100K, all these companies started, buying up Bitcoin. We saw that with Mara, we saw that with RIOT, we saw that with HUT8, which is why they're here ranked number 4. But CleanSpark, because they ramped up their hash rate recently, they're now in the number 3 race. But it's like a tie right now between HUT8 and CleanSpark. But given that CleanSpark has a higher hash rate, along with the very bullish goal for getting their hash rate up to 50 exahash in 2025, I think stock price for CleanSpark, we're going to see that potential run up. I think last week was a great opportunity to dollar cost average down. I actually bought more CleanSpark. I bought more Mara because I think what we're seeing, definitely basement low here type of prices. So hopefully we all took advantage with, just with the price action. I think CleanSpark here, we're going to see that retest, sometime maybe even this month, January, up to that, mid-tier $14. And we're going to get back up to that prior retest that we saw. It's taking a look at just the overall, indicators, Bitcoin thresholds here. We're still in the accumulation phase, so not too worried. I think a lot of what we're hearing is like, okay, so what's happening with Bitcoin? Like, is Bitcoin price going to go down? We heard about the government being able to grab about 6.5 billion worth of Bitcoin from the Silk Road, and what's going to happen with all of that? I think, yes, Scott. So thanks for joining. I'll be on for about an hour because I gotta get going after an hour. So we're about 7 minutes in. So if you can join, then definitely join when you can. But appreciate you jumping in here. Thank you for your comments, Scott, and support here. But overall, Bitcoin price, I think that we've been seeing some volatility in the last week. We saw like Bitcoin going up, like especially with the opening of the new year, and then all of a sudden, 2 days after that, it started going down. But I think with inauguration coming up, we have about a week left of trading. So I think next week we're going to start seeing some bullish runs with like Mara. I think where we are right now, Mara, this is definitely a great opportunity to dollar cost average down. I wouldn't be so worried. I think short interest is up to about 20% now. But I think that lowest of the lowest, worst case scenario here is like at that 1620 range, which I don't think we're going to hit, although it's possible. I might not always be right, but that's the lowest it can go. But even if it goes down that low and you bought in at $17 like last week, I mean, you're down by just a marginal, right? And if you just ride it out, it's going to have that potential to pop back up. And that's really how you win in this market. You take advantage of the fluctuations. There's going to be volatility in this market, but I do see that we're going to see that bounce back up, especially with Mara. So here's a definitely great opportunity to cost average down. I'm not trying to pump up the the stock here. I took advantage as well with Mara on Friday because these prices are low, and I think the bears are trying to scare people right now. But I think that we're going to start seeing some great opportunities, some V-shaped ups with Mara coming up here. So William, thank you for sharing. 2122. So even if you have any, like even if you have more cash, I would sprinkle more, right? try to cost average down. If you're the Mara fanboy, try to bring that down any further that you can. I think, okay, so you bought more Mara 60K at $7 even. Oh, it's $17. Okay, well, keep dollar cost averaging down if you can. That's how we win in this market. Wow, 12,000 shares. So you're a big holder of Mara. That congratulations there. I think that there's going to be some great opportunity with Mara price action going up, but that $20 range, I think that you'll be in a good state. You're down by a little, but just continue dollar cost averaging down. We're gonna start hitting that mid tier. Who knows? We might even get to the 20 range next week. I mean, that's only like $2.20, and then we might even, best case scenario, start hovering up into that $23 early in the week, midweek, or even end of week. But I don't think that we're going to continue seeing that oversold type of action, just scaling more of a zoomed in perspective with what we see with Mara. I think that it's been just heavily brought down. Let's take a look at just MSTR. I think, let me know, is anyone invested in MSTR, or like what miners is everyone invested in? Okay, so just seeing what questions there anyone has. So Saso Iron. So Iron, I think that Iron, we saw on Friday, Iron, they outperformed most of the miners. I think Iron did a great job with announcing the news that they got up to a new all-time high hash rate. They're at fleet efficiency. They're like number one in fleet efficiency. I think Iron is definitely an undervalued Bitcoin miner company that will just continue to grow. But I think even with MSTR, I think the heavy selling, from 550 down to 280, great opportunity here to take advantage. If and when Bitcoin price starts going up to 120K, which I do think is going to happen. We're going to see some run-ups in Q1. I think a lot of people are worried right now, but that's good, right? Be greedy when others are fearful. We're going to see that run-up in MSTR, the miners. I think Riot, CleanSpark, Mar are really going to take advantage. I have here Riot, current price at $12. We haven't really seen huge fluctuations with Riot. I think there's some stability here, but I think we're going to see a retest in the near term. We'll get back up to that prior test of $15, what we saw in November, and then start retesting that $20 range that we saw back in July of 2023. So I think there's a lot of price action that we're beginning to see here. Let's take a look at, just overall Mara, is there a short squeeze, coming? But overall short interest we have here, 84 million shares right now. There's about 2.7 days to cover. Short interest percent float, 26%. So that is relatively high, but what does that mean? There's potential for short squeeze to take place. So I think that we can, see some action into the next week, depending on when these shorts are going to start covering, which I think has potential here. I wanted to also just cover, details here on the Bitcoin magazine here, spot ETFs. 2024 was such a great year for, just changes with spot ETFs. We had the birth of ETFs, and BlackRock created IBIT, and that's really one of the biggest ETFs right now, one of the top 20 ETFs out of all the stock market ETFs right now. They brought in 52 billion inflows alone. So think about investors, diversifying, allocating their ETF funds, getting from like VOO, S&P ETFs, diversifying into Bitcoin ETFs. So what's going to happen, right? So think about spot exchange. So these miners as well as MSTRs are going to start partnering up with companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity to start having some partnership where in exchange for listing Bitcoin from these HODL companies, North American companies, these companies like BlackRock will provide revenue cash flow into the miners and MSTR for allowing them to use their Bitcoin in exchange. So that's really going to add value to these companies like MSTR, Riot, CleanSpark, Mara, along with other miners. But I like these big three miners as well as MSTR because their HODL rate is like really high when you look at the overall Bitcoin holdings here, right? Mara at like 45,000. So question is like, is Mara trying to increase their ATM so that they can start catching up to MSTR overall HODL count? And what does that mean in share price? I think William has predictions that Mara share price can eventually go up to $200 in the year. So that's going to be some big news here. Okay, so then here, William, Mara, CleanSpark, Riot are dirt cheap right now. I agree with you. I mean, these big three miners, they're being heavily shorted. And a lot of what's going on right now, especially with the news around Bitcoin price, with the government potentially selling $6.5 billion of the Bitcoins that they were able to pull from the Silk Road. I don't think any of that's going to happen. They're just trying to scare investors short term before there's going to be a change in the administration. We know SEC is going to change eventually with Trump in play, right? So Gary Gensler, he's resigning from the SEC. What does that mean? That's going to really change the dynamics of the Federal Reserve. And I think that Trump will start being more transparent with what U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve really means. And we know the type of president Trump is. Anytime when he wants to make change, he's very vocal and transparent on how he wants to execute on that plan. So we're going to hear a lot about, just crypto adoption. Bitcoin companies are going to start buying up Bitcoin. I think Meta, they're considering buying up Bitcoin. And one of the interesting things, on X is like, we're seeing a lot of connections between, here, what's interesting is like, Riot platforms. I think, people are talking about how there's potential for it to like run up here. So Riot last run at this point in 3 weeks, we went from $4 to $70. This one, $13 to $140. Why not 6-month possibility? So, that's something that we can't ignore here, looking at the Fibonacci from the higher highs. So this is going, through a historical view here from like 2018 bull run, 2021 bull run. We see that dormancy of 4 years pushed out. So I think we're in for that big candlestick run up. And when Riot runs, CleanSpark, Mara will run as well. And we shall also see some run ups with companies like MSTR as well. So I think that's something that we all have to like be mindful about. Potential run-ups. These companies are heavily correlated with performance. We might see some differences, like Mara will run up. We might see some difference in percentage gains, but these are heavily correlated. Riot, Mara, CleanSpark will run up together. When you think about, just from a zoomed out perspective, we look at the trend charts of like Mara, CleanSpark, all had that same banana zone run-ups. But I do think that we can't rule out that potential run-up. These are a very occasional type of events, but they do happen over a series of like years, and we've been pushed out for 4 years post that run-up. So I think it's a matter of when that will take place. So also, I just wanted to talk about IBIT. We talked about, how Gary Gensler is going to be resigning from the SEC. We got that spot Bitcoin ETF approval by the SEC. Donald Trump pledging the USA to embrace Bitcoin. the halving event, and just breaking through that 100K milestone. So because we've got through that 100K milestone, there's a psychological change in the expectation now, where Bitcoin will just start going up. Even if Bitcoin breaks 100K, we're going to expect and demand more from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, as it breaks 120K, we're going to be like, okay, well, it's running up, but that's not enough for us. Just human psychology, is going to push that demand up. I'm thinking this year, similar to what HC Wainwright indicated, with their price target is 225K. There's other analysts suggesting that we're going to see like 300, 500K. We can't time when that's going to happen, but it's going to happen very soon, especially with the inflows with ETFs, similar to like IBIT here. So IBIT was created by Vanguard here, back in like 2024. We've seen that healthy inflows here. It's a very similar trajectory of what we've seen with the price of Bitcoin. During that presidential announcement, Trump winning, we saw it run up, right, from like $39 to $53. Some healthy pullback, with its high point of like $61 here, but now at $53. I think there's heavy inflows from like S&P type of ETFs, getting into these newly created ETFs with Bitcoin. So a lot of hedging. What does that mean? There's going to be some spot exchange that will take place. But now, because investors have Bitcoin that they're invested in hedged through like different ETFs, that really solidifies Bitcoin as a commodity here, which we have to like really be mindful about. Bitcoin demand is just going to increase. And we know that Satoshi's plan at one point, the last Bitcoin will be mined about 120 years from now. Think about that last Bitcoin that's going to be mined. Is it going to be Mara? Is it going to be like Bitfarms? Is it going to be Iron? Is it going to be Hut 8? Is it going to be BitDeer or even CleanSpark to mine that last Bitcoin? But let's say we won't be alive during that time, but say 2140, that last Bitcoin mined, how much would that Bitcoin cost? So just put that into context. So the top 3 miners will make us rich, definitely. So Robbie, holding all 3. So I think that is, a great opportunity, just holding all 3. I also have sprinkled over the 3 as well, the miners, just so, we can take advantage of any company's share price go up. And it's interesting because you have like Mara, right, trying to like catch up to MSTR. That's the model that they're playing, trying to get that HODL, at that number where they're like a bank. That's what William indicates, right? They're a bank for Bitcoin. RIOT, they're interesting. They also have, a bank for Bitcoin as well, like, close to half of what Mara has. But on top of that, they also mine. And now you have, angel investors like Starboard, trying to get RIOT to tap into like HPC AI as well. So, can it be a hybrid type of play, which really can add value as well? And on the other hand, we have CleanSpark, a pure Bitcoin miner play, but they're trying to catch up to, the number 1 horse right now. CleanSpark, their hash rate is, getting close to 40 exahash. Mara at like 53 exahash. But I think with, CleanSpark's performance month over month, I think they're ramping up very quick, installing the S21 Pro miners. They just need to get their facilities up and running, getting the energy set up and the power capacity set up so that they can start just turning on more devices, and then at one point get up to that 50 exahash in the year 2025. But at that point, where will Mara be, right? Because Mara has many facilities global. They will start, making sure that they ramp up their hash rate as well, just so that they maintain that number 1 lead. So it's interesting, just seeing how the dynamics play out right now. Okay, so it looks like we have, 14 people here. And let me just read through the comments here. So Robbie, Richard. So I think a lot of people are turned off right now with the miners, but I hope that we all take advantage of dollar cost averaging down, buying more shares. So here, William's comment, the United States may pursue the acquisition of 500,000 Bitcoin as part of a strategic reserve initiative, according to Skybridge. Yep, I think we're going to hear a lot more from President Trump. He's going to give us more color on what the Bitcoin reserve really means. And I think that's where we're going to start hearing about the private companies, because this man, I trust this man with the economy. He's a businessman, and he's really going to add value to these North American companies. So here we have a bear, Alessandro Tech, that's in here and talking about Mara dilution is a killer for the company. So if I may ask, Alessandro, what do you see with MSTR? Are you a bear against MSTR as well? Do you think MSTR will go down along with a company like Mara? Because I think that what Mara and MSTR are doing is they're trying to either acquire more Bitcoin or even acquire companies, right? They're trying to create a bank like HODL to hold up the Bitcoins. Think about once Bitcoin is depleted, what's going to happen? Companies are just going to negotiate with these companies that do have Bitcoin so that they can acquire the Bitcoin from them. So Robbie here, we knew pre-halving the pump wasn't sustainable. I sold Mara at 28, Spark at 18 to rebuy back in both recently. So Robbie, you took advantage. You had that, that laser sharp focus. You timed it well. So congratulations. I think that you didn't let the emotions come into play, and you were able to time it right. So good job there. Getting out with clean Spark at 18 before that that downward movement, and then getting back in, buying low, selling high. Good job on that, man. So here, I think, yeah, we're going to see a lot of interesting news coming from, just Trump, and, it's about a week away. So I think bears are doing everything possible to try to bring down, the Bitcoin commodity price before, Trump enters the White House. But you see here, spot Bitcoin ETFs attract 37 billion in inflows, surpassing gold investments, reflecting significant growth in financial markets. So you see how it's been a paradigm shift. A lot of people invested in gold before, but now it's shifted. We're investing in digital commodity. All you see is on your mobile phone, you see how much Bitcoin you own, for example, but it's not even a visible material commodity similar to gold, platinum, or anything to that effect. So it's changed. It's a paradigm shift in that digital commodity. Think of it as property, and that the rate of return is so huge that it's making a difference. And I think these inflows that's coming in from the stock market flowing into Vanguard ETFs like IBIT, like what I was talking about here, we're going to see more. I'm thinking that in 2025, that 53 billion inflows for IBIT, it's going to go up to 100 billion. What does that mean? Think of a heavy ocean wave flowing in and crashing into a pool of Bitcoin. And what's going to happen there? That heavy turbulence of the ocean-like force of the wave, like a tsunami entering a small pool of 21 Bitcoins, that's going to ramp up the Bitcoin price. Just that analogy of the turbulence from the ocean coming into a small pool of Bitcoin. And that's what's going to change that supply and demand shift, where Bitcoin price is going to go up to that 200K possibly. All right, so it looks like we have 18 people here. I'd love to hear what your questions are. If you can put it down in the chat, please. So what are your top, company stocks that you're invested in? Okay, so tell us more about the wind farm acquisition. So Thiessen, thanks for asking that question. So how does that help Mara? So, long-term approach, I'm just thinking about, just long-term perspective. right? Satoshi's plan is that the last Bitcoin that's going to be mined is 2040. That's like how many decades from now, right? That's like 12 decades from now. We'll all be dead by then. But I think that's really going to help because renewable energy is really the name of the game right now. How do we minimize cost? So think about how Mara is innovating. They're getting into wind farm. They have, that acquisition of wind farm in Texas. We have a lot of wind in Texas. Energy cost is much more affordable in Texas. And for that reason, we're going to see Mara learn research on how we can leverage renewable energy for the sake of like mining Bitcoin. And that's all going to come into play to bring down their fleet efficiency where they are at right now, 20 joules per terahash. Imagine once they are able to apply wind farm like type of renewable energy into their business operation, that's going to really add value with the operational expense, bring that down. Okay, so MicroStrategy doesn't have the operation cost that Mara has, though. Yes, and I agree with you there, but think about just let me know what your why are you so bearish with Mara? So maybe perhaps William, let me know what your thoughts are with Alejandro's comment there about Mara. So that's a great point. So Mara makes Bitcoin for around 50K per cost of Bitcoin. The fixed cost is 50K, but currently right now it's at close to that 100K. So Robbie, missed a MicroStrategy purchase. So looking at MSTR though, even though we missed the boat, right? Like buying in at like $43 or even like at $100, right before October timeframe, September it was like 120, and then it went bananas like from 120 to 540, within a matter of like weeks. But now that it's bled out from its all-time high of 550 down to 280. What's your take? Is now a time to buy, hold, or sell? Just looking at MSTR. So Alessandro, so what do you think about Q4? Do you think that Mara is going to show underperformance where their revenue is going to be low in Q4 compared to Q3? I'm thinking that we're going to see some positive financial results in Q4. Okay, so Alan here, question, what do you think about Mara dilution? So similar to, that news, the question is when that will go into effect, right? Of course, the potential is we worry about dilution of the shares, right? Market cap's going to stay the same. But overall, we're wondering whether like the actual price, is that going to impact the overall price? But I think that in the long run, those extra shares, they may use that to just buy up more Bitcoin, similar to what MicroStrategy is trying to do. They're trying to get billions of dollars increasing their ATMs to buy more Bitcoin. So they'll do whatever it takes to just grow their Bitcoin bank. Okay, so Robbie Rose here, the short squeeze alone for Mara will send Mara parabolic. Yeah, just looking at, okay, so, just let's take a look at that 5-year or all-time highs here. We saw that run up back in 2020, 5-year range. We saw that banana zone, right? From $5 to like $80. Yes, it's different now, but it's been sitting at the basement low for so long. I think that, what we've seen here, with like the Mara last run, I think there's potential for it to go bananas to like 130 possibly with RIOT. That's just based on historical trends from the higher highs Fibonacci here. So if RIOT's done it on 2 occasions, why won't we see a third volcano-like type of run up? RIOT runs, Mara runs, Clean Spark runs, any of them, if they break out like that, all three will run from my perspective. And it's all going to be driven from, one of the main variables, will Bitcoin break through that 225K, which I think there's going to be that potential. So question here. So Katie posed an interesting question here. So will everyone sell here if the miners run up in the next few months? That really depends. So like Katie, you see Robbie's strategy with Mara getting up to like 30, he sold. With Clean Spark getting up to $18, he sold. So really, it's a matter of market sentiment. I think that we're going to see some positive news, the stimulus that's going to come, right? I think the variable that we're going to have to like really see is Bitcoin is going to start pumping, right? 200K, that's really going to be a driving factor, along with the Q4 results. I think earnings per share, a lot of these companies are going to have positive results, especially with Bitcoin price going up in Q4. So revenue is going to be green. And that's what is really going to get investors to invest more into like miners, because now they're showing that they're making a living with this business of being a miner because of Bitcoin price going up, and they're actually holding on to Bitcoin, the commodity of what they've mined, because they know that it's the most valuable commodity right now. So all of that is changing. Okay, so I think it really depends on your strategy, what your risk tolerance is. If you're a long-term investor, I think a lot of what happened in the past here, like, Mara going from like $3 to $80, I hope that, these are the lessons that you learn here as you see it go up like to that level. Take profits, learn how to take profits in this game. I think, what we can get impacted with is being emotional. I've had, instances like, for example, my past experience, Zomedica, ZOM, it was at, 7-12 cents. It ran up to $2.50 within a matter of like 2 weeks. So think about how you learn to take profits based on just market sentiment. But then again, you gotta, realize, like, let's say, if and when Mara goes from like, 17 to like, 24, are you going to take profits there? If it goes to 30, are you going to take profits there? What if it starts running up even more, or it slowly trends up? So even if you do take profits, be comfortable if it continues going up. So I think it all depends on, just looking at technicals. I think that's also very important. Looking at like the relative strength index. If you see the RSI go up like above like 80, where it's hit that 80, volumes kicked in so much, you gotta, be worried, because think about like any roller coaster ride. There isn't any like theme park out there where the roller coaster is built to continue going up, right? So there's going to be some downward motion as well. And we've seen that with MSTR, during that time of 550, I made videos at that time to be careful, because what goes down very quick, doesn't matter how strong of a company you are, is bound to go back down, or at least have a breather, right? So, it went up super fast, like NOS, like, it turned on the NOS in the car, and then the NOS turned off, and now it's, consolidating. So all of that has to be factored in. Okay, so here, Mara will be valued at 3K soon. They are being undervalued for a reason, but that will change very soon. Mara will break out. I definitely do think so. And Robbie does have a point here. So, miners are going to start showing nice earnings and then have positive price value. So TSIN, the dilution seems accretive, investing wind farms and buying Bitcoin with the capital raised. Robbie, Bitfarms looks tempting, but I'm staying with RIOT, Mara, and Spark. Yeah, so I think there's that level of stability. You're applying the institutional approach, like with Vanguard, Fidelity, BlackRock buying up the top 3 miners. So that's interesting. But I think Bitfarms, it's a little bit more of a gamble there, but what goes down will eventually pop back up, and they got their fleet efficiency down close to about 20. So I think, their cost to mine is much lower than a lot of the other companies as well. And bringing in, around 250 Bitcoins per month, that's not bad really. So I think Bitfarms 2025, even though they didn't meet their 2024 goal, I think there's a lot of room for Bitfarms to start appreciating up. Okay, so Katie here, thanks for sharing your cost average. So Katie, even if you don't have more to sprinkle on, meaning like to buy like the price, like let's say next week, if you don't have funds to do that, bring down that cost average if you can. But overall, price target, CleanSpark, I think, and would welcome everyone's, price prediction here. But I think, in January, I think that we're going to see that, that sub 1493, it's going to break through that possibly. And then that $17 range, CleanSpark was like so popular back in Q1 of last year, from like $6 all the way up to $25 within a matter of weeks from February to March. And then they started announcing, increasing ATMs and all that. And, overall, they had a poor performance in the remainder of 2024. But this continuous bleed out continue to cost average down because the fundamentals of CleanSpark is looking really solid right now. CleanSpark, at that number 3 HODL count, 10,000 Bitcoins on their balance sheet. Multiply that by like 100K. That's all going to be part of their market cap there. But I think CleanSpark, I wouldn't worry so much. You're going to see $13 be hit very soon. Yep, exactly. Robbie, there's going to be pullbacks during the run-ups. You depending on how you strategize, you sell, take some profits, so at least you have some in the tank. And if and when it goes back down to that price that you like, you can continue buying in as well. But it all just depends on your strategy, But I think like in the case of like William, he's going long term, right? He's a long term investor for Mara because he believes that Mara is going to run up to $200 in the year 2025. And who knows, that might be possible, right? We saw the potential from like $3 to $80, where it currently is 17. I mean, that's like 11x potential. We saw MSTR, had a 800x run up in 2024. So, because if one company can do it, I wouldn't rule out that other companies can't do it. There's always going to be that possibility for some crazy things to happen. We saw last time frame, the last term when Trump was, getting close to exiting his term. We saw like during the COVID time, we saw some crazy, ridiculous run-ups the last 4 or 5 years ago. But I think that, because we've seen a lot of dormancy, there's going to be some potential for some huge price actions coming up. Just with, yep. So it looks like we've gone 43 minutes. So we'll continue for about another 12 minutes. But, please, if you can just add your questions, I'd love to answer any questions that you have. But one hot play I wanted to share with you also that has, potential for a reverse Okay, it might not be the type of stock where it'll run up very fast, but if you're looking for like a play that has stability, where there's going to be a V-shape up potential, if you're willing to let your money sit there for a bit and not worry, even though let's say it may go down a little further, but there's going to be some price stability point. I'm going to share with you one play here is AMD. Okay, it's different. It's not in the Bitcoin sector and all that, but they're part of the tech environment in the AI sector. AMD. Why do I like AMD so much? We take a look at the 1 year range. This thing was at $228 here. So just to let you know, took advantage of buying lower with AMD. It's been bleeding out for about a year now. Most of you are wondering why it's bleeding out. I mean, it's just the normal cycle of just stocks, but because it's been bleeding out, I think that we're going to see a potential run up with AMD soon. Just 6 month range, going down $100. I think price point 115. We're going to see that retest of like $200. So I think that there's potential there. So just FYI, just to share with you one play that I think has a run up potential. Mara shares should be trading at a 3x potential to their total Bitcoin holdings. Imagine sitting in an EV live stream right now. So, with EV, so I don't know if you guys all knew, but, took an investment in Rivian, for like many months, and, took a beating with Rivian. And, like 2 weeks ago, they announced, that their production and distribution demand for the car increased, and it went up by 25%. Took profits right after that, and that time it was like 1650, but now after just some bleed out in the stock market, now it's down to $13. That was the price point. So just trying to just timing the market, taking profits is very healthy. That's what I've learned over the course of many years in investing. AMD, at one point, I remember I invested in AMD many years ago at like $12. I got in AMD, $12, and then it ran up to 100. So I took profits at 100. It wasn't a big amount, but I learned from that. But the reason why I like AMD is just take a look at this here, what I'm hovering. So aren't we seeing a similar type of bleed out here? Here, you see all these red candlesticks from like 2022, getting close to 2023. That was, spaced out for like a year of bleeding out. And 2022 was a year where the entire stock market went down, right? 2024, up through 2025 was a bleed out as well, which is what we saw with AMD. This is why I like, just looking at the technicals. AMD isn't going away, right? I mean, there's tons of, sites here in like the Bay Area with AMD, but we're seeing a similar pattern here. What goes down will eventually go back up here. And I think we're seeing huge oversold activity with AMD. And I think that because it's been bleeding out for like a year, we're going to start seeing it climb back up to that prior retest of like 227. So that's easy profits I see just looking at a company like AMD, for example. Okay, so TENX, I'm not too sure what that is. Ambienzation, hey, thank you for joining. I notice your username here. So we have about 12 minutes left. Would love to hear what your assessments are. What questions do you have? Hopefully I can answer any more questions that anyone has. But yeah, let's just continue here. So CLSK, no dilution for a while. I don't think they are going to announce anything. Who knows? They did do, ATMs in 2024, and I think with their stock buyback approach and having that $650 convertible note, my thinking is that there's a low possibility that they do dilute shares in the year 2025, but who knows? Um, but I think that where CleanSpark is right now, hopefully you're able to buy additional shares at like that high $9. I think we're going to see that retest into like that $17, $18 coming up very soon here. Okay, so that's interesting. So it looks like CCIV. Wow, so that means you've gained over like close to 120%. So congrats there, Robbie. So definitely always, share, the plays here. I think we're all learning from one another. I think Katie, she likes like SoFi. She's thinking about Neo and all of that. But I think with the Bitcoin miners, Mara definitely undervalued. I bought in Mara on Friday, bought more shares at $17. CleanSpark took advantage at $9.80, even higher as well. Riot, I believe, has that potential for a run up, getting into that phase two retest of $20 as it reaches that 120K Bitcoin price. We have about a week left before Trump gets in the office. So I think companies like MSTR is going to have a potential V-ship back up to get it back into the 400 range. And then, we're going to see that huge pump retesting 500 range. But I wouldn't be surprised MSTR to have a positive performance in the year 2025. But I think that the miners have much more upside, especially with seasonality performance that we've seen. Because Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot underperformed in 2024, we're going to see some upside with 2025. Also, another play to consider is let's say if you are invested in like ETFs and all that, if you're heavy on the stock market, in like S&P. I also think like the Russell 2000 indexes, small caps, they may start outperforming the S&P ETFs, like the large cap companies with Trump. Last time, in the last term, Trump really made the small cap index funds outperform, and it's been underperforming for so long. So I think that we're going to see a huge shift with the Russell 2000 type of ETFs. But IBIT, I think that take advantage of IBIT if you think that this is a great opportunity. Fairly new still, 53 billion. Currently in IBIT, but I think that we're going to see much more upside, having inflows up to about 100 billion. And eventually we're going to see like spot ETFs take place. And how are these ETFs going to leverage Bitcoin? They're going to start asking like MSTR, Mara, CleanSpark, Riot to allow to use their Bitcoins in exchange for profits. Bitcoin price, we're seeing healthy, just hovering around that 90K. We saw that head and shoulder take place. But I think that we're seeing healthy consolidations and we're going to see that run up. We haven't heard anything about the government selling, Bitcoin. There was like worry or fear about Bitcoin price going down if the government sells. But hey, I think Trump is in control right now. We had, Eric Trump, connecting with Michael Saylor at the Mar-a-Lago. They're working on a strategy. There's going to be that partnership, and there's going to be some banana zone type of run-ups. MSTR runs up. We're going to see run-ups with Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot as well. Things can't be sitting down for a long time. Yeah, I think miner sector, people are turned off by it right now, but I think that we're going to start seeing some short squeeze. Mara with short interest, 26%, similar with like CleanSpark and Riot. But I think eventually these shorters are going to have to cover. They're going to have to start buying shares because they're seeing the run-ups. I think a lot of shorters are trying to still take advantage. They'll still play next week, trying to bring down the price, especially just with the fear and uncertainty with Bitcoin fluctuations, seeing the ups and downs here. But I think the inflows with ETFs is going to continue, especially with spot Bitcoin ETFs surpassing gold investment. That's really going to make some changes. And we heard about Meta. So the CEO of Facebook, Meta, he actually connected with Trump, Mar-a-Lago, and he also connected with Joe Rogan. But think about all of that. That's all shifting in now. I think Meta CEO, they're conforming to the new government that's coming into play, and Meta is considering hodling Bitcoin. Think about that. One of the biggest companies considering Bitcoin. At one point, Microsoft, they were considering it, and what did they say? No. But I think that Meta, once they do it, I think eventually people are going to start doing that as well. Okay, so it looks like Tony B joined here. Ben Gagnon bought another 50,000 share. So also Robbie here, Solana altcoin. Yeah, Solana, buying in at 176, have some as well. It was nice to see it run up to like 240. Now it's currently at 180 something. Hopefully we get that price action. A lot of the coins right now, I think people are like wondering when are altcoins going to start running. I think we're seeing a lot of action in like Ripple, Stellar Lumens, Cardano, but people are wondering like, where are the opportunities here? I think altcoins will eventually start having that run up right now. But yeah, thank you, William. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. I would really appreciate you guys, just supporting. Hit that notification because I'm trying to make it a regular thing where on weekends I'm going to have live events. So hopefully this time works for you all, and we'll continue to have those dialogues there. Just with daily live stream, it's tough because there's just so much things I got to do during the weekday, but I'll try to make room for that. But at least starting, consistent pattern is on Saturdays. So hopefully, you guys just continue the bell notifications, videos. I'll still be releasing on the daily, just to cover, updates on Bitcoin, just details on the miners with Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, other big time companies. But I think, MSTR, we're going to see run-ups very soon. Riot, CleanSpark, Mara, we may potentially see some heavy waves coming in the near term here. So once it starts running up to that point where we are so like in that bullish moment, it's kind of like, are we like at that point where there's FOMO effect? Or is it time to sell and all that? But right now, continued dollar cost averaging down. It may sound painful, but I think discount buying, at the low points will allow for us to win in this market, and our time will start coming. Okay, so looks like we have 20 viewers here. Any last questions? We'll go for, we're getting close to that 1 hour marker here. So what do you think of DeFi tech? I don't have an answer for that, DeFi technology, but I think, AI, Bitcoin related companies, HPC, all of that's, that's the tech innovation right now. That's where, most people want to hedge their money. DeFi may be something that will take place. I don't have too much details on that. And JG Lee just joined in here as well. Thank you, man. And your feedback, as always, appreciate it. And your consistency. Riot prediction, Amin. I think Riot prediction. So just looking at what I drew here, this is just based on my assessment for like near-term prediction. So we have that retest 15, retest at 20. But I think long-term type of thing, even just looking at this here, right? We saw RIOT run from $4 to 70. This one, $13 to $140. And if RIOT does have this type of movement, Mara and CleanSpark will have that same movement. We have this Fibonacci line, higher highs projection here, right? If you connect the dots between the prior high events, with anticipation of a possible banana run, that's where it lands, around that 130, 140 range. So the sky's the limit there. Okay. All right. So it looks like, we're at that 1 hour mark, and I just want to, just keep it at that 1 hour mark. But I really appreciate you all joining here. Kind of feel like a scientist with peer review. Yeah, I mean, I do. That's my. I have that science background, business background. So that's just how I analyze data, and of course, always taking everyone's feedback as well. And it looks like everyone here has just great perspective and just sharing their updates as well. So hopefully we all can continue learning and collaborating. But I think overall, that was it. Legends Lost, thank you for the comment that you enjoyed the show there. And, please hit the like, subscribe, turn on that bell notification. We'll do it again next Saturday. Thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate it. And, all I see is W is the shirt here. On the back, it has a little phrase. Gain on positive proceeds, lead with an altruistic mindset. Okay, so it's not just gaining on the finances, but how do we lead in this world with an altruistic mindset? Thank you, everyone. God bless, and hope you all have a good weekend. Take care.